Now, it is the first day of Conservative Party conference and the Prime Minister has already vowed to set out his vision for the country without, he says, taking the easy choices. That's a bit ominous.
Well, as he arrived for the four-day event in Manchester, he announced that he is going to invest more than £1 billion worth of cash into towns, literally into the high streets, is what he's saying, because he says the high street has been overlooked.
But the conference isn't going to be plain sailing, of course, because there's going to be pressure from his own party over things like HS2, immigration, of course, and net zero.
Of course, there could be some fireworks this week. To tell us more, our political correspondent, Katherine Forster, is there in Manchester. Morning, Katherine. Still raining, I see. So a bleak outlook for Rishi Sunak, or will he have an easy ride?
Oh, I certainly don't think he will have an easy ride. Welcome to a very rainy Manchester, a city that's not too keen on the Conservatives at the best of times. And of course, given all the speculation that it looks almost certain the government is going to scrap the planned leg of HS2 finishing in Manchester, this is a really difficult time to be in this city. Now, Rishi Sunak is desperate to shift those polls. They were about 20 points behind. In the last couple of weeks, he's been a lot bolder. One poll suggests the gap might be beginning to close. So he's announced policies like softening some of these green targets, and yesterday we heard that he's going out to bat on the side of the motorist, given that the Conservatives managed to hold on to Uxbridge largely because of opposition to the ultra-low emission zone. And today we hear money for high streets, badly needed, of course. We don't hear that much about levelling up from this current iteration of the Conservative government. But even aside from his problems in the polls and the message to the country, he's got a battle to sort of keep a lid on the various factions within his own party, because there's plenty of Conservatives who pretty much think that the next election is already lost. So their focus is positioning themselves to give themselves the best possible chance when there is a leadership contest. So we've seen Home Secretary Suella Braverman very prominent in the last week, making her views about the ECHR known. Today we've got an interview with Kemi Badenoch, the same, saying we should be pulling out of the ECHR. Another 30 Tories signing a letter to the Prime Minister saying they won't vote for any tax rises. And last year we had the Liz Truss government at conference in Birmingham imploding because of her unfunded tax cuts. This year, we have a battle going on within the Conservative Party asking for tax cuts. So there's nothing easy about the time Rishi Sunak's going to have here, and we can expect all these leadership contenders to be very prominent. Liz Truss is giving a big speech tomorrow, so plenty of rivals circling, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting few days.
It certainly will be. Katherine, thanks very much indeed. Let's talk to former Labour advisor and associate editor at Labour Uncut, Kevin Marr, who joins us now. He's in Sheffield. Hi, Kevin. Good to see you. I mean, look, presumably the key strategy at conference is going to be to actually create some clear blue water between the Tories and the Labour Party.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the purpose, really, of the big party conference speech, especially when you're the party of government and Prime Minister. I mean, it's quite a thought, really, that Rishi Sunak's not even been in office for 12 months. It's been a real long, hard, grinding roller coaster year. And it's been a very, very tough Parliament as well, of course, with COVID and everything else that's gone on, the end of Brexit and what have you. So it, you know, it feels like we've been going for a very long time. But this is Sunak's last best chance to speak directly to the country, to set out his stall, to update the public on his priorities that he enunciated earlier in the year, which is to improve growth, cut inflation, cut debt, sort out the small boats issue and the NHS as well. And I think if you were trying to be generous, you'd say it's a mixed scorecard on all 5 of those areas, those priority areas. So he comes into this week, I think, slightly vulnerable. He's got a lot of people circling, obviously, for his job. Welcome to being Prime Minister. That happens to everybody. But he's got to try and spell out how he gets the Conservatives out of the hole that they're in, freshens them up, and is able in the next 12 months to go back to the country in a general election and say, give me 5 more years because I'm getting most things right. And that at the moment is really, I think, quite a tall order.
Yeah, and even today, first day of the conference, they're announcing things that obviously are designed to make positive headlines, but are they going to convince anyone? Things like this £1 billion to be flushed into the nation's high streets. It feels a bit desperate, doesn't it?
It's a drop in the ocean. I mean, that's the kind of, I think what you tend to find often for the start of any governing party's conference week is that you've tried to cobble together some, as you say, eye-catching announcements. Whether there's a lot of substance to them is a moot point. £1 billion is obviously a lot of money spread across the country, trying to revive every dilapidated city and town high street. It is going to go nowhere, frankly. So again, the devil's often in the detail. Rishi Sunak's big problem this week is that he's not made enough progress against his priority areas. We've still got an economy and a cost of living crisis, a lot of people struggling, and a lot of the legacy, of course, from his predecessor, Liz Truss, who's doing the rounds, as your correspondent was saying a few minutes ago, doing the rounds this week. Now, the big problem he's got, I think, with Liz Truss is that as she seeks to rehabilitate her reputation, which was obviously pretty trashed after her 44 days in charge last year, she does so at the cost of Rishi Sunak's reputation. So everything she says appears to be a coded criticism of Sunak. And the more she kind of draws attention, the more effectively she campaigns against her own party and government. Now, I think there will be a lot of Conservative activists and a lot of Conservative MPs that will be quite annoyed about that. And it might be that actually if Rishi Sunak wanted to do something really big and really bold this week to really get the headlines, well, why not remove the whip from Liz Truss? I mean, that would really, I think, pull attention to him. He wants to position himself this week as no more Mr. Nice Guy. He's getting down to business. He's going to get very, very tough. And we've got a reshuffle, we're told, coming up. Well, assert your authority. Look in the sense of what Keir Starmer has done with Jeremy Corbyn. When you do something big and bold like that, remove the whip from a predecessor who is regarded as an electoral liability, it really does get noticed and people perhaps give you a second hearing. And this is what this week is all about for Rishi Sunak. It's getting a second hearing. Yeah,
what about the Labour Party in all of this, though? Because whilst, we know that a lot of the delegates, a significant number of delegates at Tory party conference are thinking, whatever happens, we're not going to win the next election. 100% of delegates at the Labour Party conference are going to be thinking, we're going to win this, we've got it in the bag. We haven't got any policies that we've announced anywhere yet. No one really knows what we stand for, but we're still going to win. There's a danger of complacency there, isn't there?
There is always a danger of complacency, and I think what you tend to find with a lot of Labour people, certainly anybody of my age that remembers the 1992 general election, is that if you start to think it's in the bag, fate has a habit of creeping up on you and changing your plans. So I think at the very top of the Labour Party, the people around Keir Starmer, they will be very cautious that actually, this government does appear to be running out of road, does appear to be running out of life force, does appear to be running out of ideas, and a lot of its bad luck is catching up on it. But that doesn't mean necessarily that they're absolutely done in. I mean, some of the polls, even in the last week, are showing a narrowing, and that at this period, 12 months out possibly from an election, is not unrecoverable for Rishi Sunak. If he plays the game really, really well over the year, and he's lucky that if inflation starts to drop back and the cost of living crisis starts to abate a little bit, and if the winter pressures on the NHS are manageable, that actually getting into next spring, he might not be in too bad a shape. But he's got to try and he's got to be master of his own party. And I think at the moment he's struggling to assert that authority. We're told there's going to be a big cabinet reshuffle ahead of the King's speech. We've got a couple of by-elections in a few weeks' time, which may be very difficult difficult for him. But if he holds them, again, the moment and the mood changes often very quickly in politics. We've got the autumn statement as well. If the economy looks to be in slightly better health than some people think, if there is a prospect of tax cuts, perhaps in the budget next March, then all of a sudden the game can change very, very quickly. But it just strikes me the obvious thing that Sunak can do to assert his authority over a fractious party with some of his colleagues openly sort of showcasing their wares, as it's like, is to take on Liz Truss. She's absolutely toxic for the Conservatives, for everybody that's now paying higher mortgage rates due to her incompetence last year. Sunak should hold her to account, withdraw the whip. It would be a really strong thing to do.
Wow, I mean, that would be pretty brutal, wouldn't it? But exciting things probably are going to happen in the next few days. You can't help but feeling, though, that it's going to be the Labour Party conference that's going to be the one to watch to see whether or not they really can lay out their wares impressively enough. But, Kevin, thanks very much indeed. Great to see you this morning.